Hello and welcome. I want you to take a moment and think about the best job you've ever had. Not necessarily the one that paid the most money, but the one where you felt the most alive. The one where you woke up in the morning and didn't dread the alarm clock. Now contrast that with the worst job you've ever had. The one where the atmosphere felt heavy, where everyone was just keeping their heads down, waiting for the weekend. What was the difference? Was it the product you were selling? Was it the office furniture? Probably not. It was the energy. It was the spirit. It was the culture. Today, we are going to dive deep into a story that tackles this exact problem. We are exploring the classic business fable, Gung Ho, by Ken Blanchard and Sheldon Bowles. This isn't a dry textbook on management theory. It is a narrative, a story about a woman named Peggy Sinclair and a man named Andy Longclaw, and how they used 3 secrets from the natural world to turn a sinking ship into a rocket. Let's set the scene. Peggy Sinclair has just been promoted. Well, promoted is a generous word. She has been sent to run the Walton Works No. 2 factory. To the outside world, she's a rising star. But the reality is much harsher. Walton Works No. 2 is the dumping ground of the company. Peggy quickly realizes that she hasn't been sent there to succeed, she's been sent there to preside over a funeral. The plant has maybe 6 months, a year at most, before headquarters shuts it down. She is essentially the captain of the Titanic after it has already hit the iceberg. On her first day, she walks the floor. It's grim. Management treats the workers like children or, worse, like enemies. The workers respond with the bare minimum effort. It's a toxic cycle of distrust. But then, she notices something strange. In the midst of this industrial wasteland, there is one department, just one, that is thriving. It's the finishing department. Their productivity is through the roof. Their quality is impeccable. And the people there? They're actually smiling. Peggy is baffled. How can one department be so successful while the rest of the plant is rotting? She decides she needs to meet the man in charge of this anomaly. His name is Andy Longclaw. Andy is a Native American manager, a man of few words but immense wisdom. He's managed to insulate his department from the toxic culture of the rest of the factory. When Peggy asks him how he does it, how he manages to get such incredible results, he tells her it's because they are Gung Ho. Gung Ho is a Chinese phrase that means working together. But for Andy, it's much more than a slogan. It's a philosophy passed down to him by his grandfather. He tells Peggy that if she wants to save the plant, she needs to learn the 3 secrets of Gung Ho. But here's the catch: he won't just write them down on a memo pad for her. She has to discover them. She has to see them in nature to truly understand them. So, their journey begins. And this is where we begin to uncover the first secret. Andy takes Peggy out to the countryside, to a quiet spot near a forest cabin. He tells her to watch the squirrels. Yes, squirrels. Now, imagine you're sitting on a park bench watching a squirrel. What do you see? You see energy. You see focus. You see a creature that is working incredibly hard, darting back and forth, gathering nuts. Andy asks Peggy, "Why do they work so hard?" Peggy thinks about it. Is it because a supervisor is yelling at them? No. Is it because they get a bonus at the end of the month? No. They work hard because they have to. They are gathering food for the winter. If they don't work, they don't survive. Their work is worthwhile. This is the first secret, the spirit of the squirrel. The definition of the spirit of the squirrel is worthwhile work. Now let's unpack this. Worthwhile work doesn't mean you have to be curing cancer or solving world peace. It means 3 specific things. First, the work must be important. Second, it must lead to a well-understood and shared goal. And third, values guide all plans, decisions, and actions. Let's look at importance. Andy challenges Peggy to think about her own past jobs. She mentions washing dishes in a college cafeteria, thinking it was meaningless. Andy corrects her. He says, "You weren't just washing dishes. You were ensuring sanitation. You were preventing disease. You were helping students stay healthy so they could learn." This is a massive shift in perspective. To have the spirit of the squirrel, people need to understand how their small piece of the puzzle makes the world a better place. In a factory, you aren't just tightening a bolt, you are building a machine that will help a family, or save a life, or build a home. If people don't know why their work matters, they will never give you their full energy. Then there are goals. Squirrels are motivated because they have a clear goal: survive the winter. In business, goals are often these vague, top-down mandates that nobody cares about. For work to be worthwhile, the goal must be shared. Everyone needs to understand it and buy into it. And finally, values. Values are the rules of the road. Goals are where you are going, values are how you get there. Andy explains that goals are for the future, but values are for now. Values are the rock you stand on. If you compromise your values to reach a goal, you kill the spirit of the squirrel. So, Peggy takes this lesson back to the plant. She realizes she has to stop focusing just on the numbers and start focusing on the meaning. She has to help her team see the impact of what they do. It's a slow process. You can't just announce, "Your work is important," and expect miracles. You have to show it. You have to connect the dots between the factory floor and the final customer. Time passes. The leaves start to change. It's autumn. And it's time for the second secret. Andy takes Peggy out again, this time after a heavy rainstorm. They go to a pond to watch the beavers. The storm has damaged the beaver dam, and the animals are working furiously to repair it. Peggy watches them, expecting to see a head beaver barking orders, directing traffic. But she sees nothing of the sort. Each beaver seems to know exactly what to do. One grabs a stick, another packs mud. They adjust to the current. They fix problems as they arise. No one is micromanaging them. This leads to the second secret, the way of the beaver. The definition is, in control of achieving the goal. This is all about control. It's about autonomy. Andy points out that the beavers work their own way. They don't wait for permission to fix a leak. They just fix it. In the corporate world, this is often where managers fail the hardest. We hire intelligent, capable adults, and then we treat them like children. We tell them exactly how to do their jobs, down to the smallest detail. We strip them of control. The way of the beaver teaches us that management's job is to set the goal, to define the playing field and the rules of the game. But once the game starts, you have to get off the field and let the players play. You have to trust that they will figure out the best way to get the job done. If a beaver finds a better way to place a log, he does it. He doesn't fill out a requisition form in triplicate. Peggy realizes that at Walton Works, the managers are strangling the workers with red tape and oversight. They are so afraid of mistakes that they have eliminated all possibility of innovation. To implement the way of the beaver, you have to value the individual. You have to respect their thoughts, their feelings, and their dreams. You have to provide work that is doable but challenging. If you give a beaver a task that is too easy, they get bored. If it's impossible, they give up. But if it stretches them? That's where engagement happens. Think about the implications of this. It means information belongs to everyone, not just the bosses. You can't be in control of your work if you don't have the data to make decisions. In Andy's finishing department, everyone knew the production numbers. Everyone knew the costs. They were treated like business partners, not just hired hands. That is the way of the beaver. So, Peggy has worthwhile work, the squirrel, and control over the goal, the beaver. Things are starting to improve at the factory. The managers are loosening the reins. The workers are starting to care. But they are still missing the final piece of the puzzle. The fuel that keeps the engine running. It's getting colder now. Winter is approaching. Andy takes Peggy on a canoe trip into a marshland. It's quiet, peaceful, until suddenly, Honk! A flock of geese flies overhead in that famous V formation. The noise is deafening. They are honking and honking. Andy asks Peggy, "Why do they honk?" Peggy guesses. Are they warning each other? Are they angry? Andy shakes his head. No, he says. They are cheering each other on. This is the third secret, the gift of the goose. The definition is cheering each other on. It sounds simple, almost cheesy, right? But think about the physics of those geese. The lead goose breaks the wind for the others. It's exhausting work. When the lead goose gets tired, it drops back, and another goose moves up. And the whole time, the geese behind are honking to encourage the ones in front. They are saying, "Keep going! You're doing great! We're right here with you. In business, we are terrible at this." Andy points out that in most companies, the only time you hear from your boss is when you screw up. Silence is considered praise. If nobody is yelling at you, you must be doing okay. That is backward. That is draining. The gift of the goose is about constant, authentic encouragement. And here is a critical distinction that Andy makes. You don't just cheer for the final result. You cheer for progress. Imagine you are watching a football game. Do the fans sit in total silence for 3 hours and then only cheer at the very end if their team wins? Of course not. They cheer for a first down. They cheer for a good tackle. They cheer for a great pass. They cheer the progress of the game. Yet at work, we wait for the annual review to say, "Good job." By then, it's too late. The energy is gone. Andy gives Peggy a formula, E equals MC squared. But in Gung Ho terms, it means enthusiasm equals mission times cash and congratulations. Cash comes first. You have to pay people fairly. That's a hygiene factor. But cash buys you a person's time. It doesn't buy their heart. Congratulations, affirmation, praise, cheering, that's what buys their heart. That's what feeds the spirit. Peggy realizes that she has been stingy with her praise. She's been so focused on saving the plant, so focused on the crisis, that she forgot to celebrate the small wins. She forgot to honk. She realizes that congratulations must be true. TRUE, timely, responsive, unconditional, and enthusiastic. You can't fake it. People know when you're faking it. But when it's real, it's rocket fuel. So, Peggy returns to the factory with the final secret. She starts looking for people doing things right. She starts wandering the factory floor, not to inspect, but to encourage. She encourages her managers to do the same. At first, the workers are suspicious. They think it's a trick. Why is the boss being nice to me? But consistency breaks down walls. When they realize she is genuine, the atmosphere shifts. The silence of the factory is replaced by the hum of energy. Let's recap the transformation. First, the squirrel. The workers understood that saving the plant wasn't just about corporate profits. It was about saving their community, their families, and their pride. It was worthwhile work. Second, the beaver. Peggy tore down the fences. She gave teams the data. She let them schedule their own shifts. She let them figure out how to fix the machines. They were in control. Third, the goose. They started celebrating. They tracked their production on big boards, and every time they hit a milestone, they cheered. They supported one another. The result? You can guess the result. The factory didn't just survive, it thrived. They hit record productivity. They became the jewel of the company. But the story of Gung Ho has a bittersweet ending, and I think this is what gives the book its emotional weight. Throughout this journey, we learn that Andy Longclaw is sick. He has been passing on this wisdom not just to save the plant, but to leave a legacy. He wants to ensure that the spirit of Gung Ho survives him. In the end, Andy passes away. It's a moment of profound sadness for Peggy and the factory. But at his funeral, the entire town shows up. The factory shuts down out of respect. And Peggy realizes that Andy's true work wasn't the widgets they manufactured. His true work was the people. He turned them on. He gave them dignity. He gave them a reason to come to work. Peggy takes on the mantle. She becomes the keeper of the flame. She realizes that Gung Ho isn't a one-time fix. It's a way of life. It requires constant maintenance. You have to keep reminding people why their work matters. You have to keep giving them control. You have to keep cheering them on. So, what does this mean for you? You might not be running a manufacturing plant. You might be leading a small marketing team, running a coffee shop, or just managing your own household. The principles remain exactly the same. Ask yourself the squirrel question: do the people around you know why what they do is important? Do they feel it in their gut? If not, you need to connect the dots for them. Help them see the forest, not just the nuts. Ask yourself the beaver question: are you micromanaging? Are you standing over people's shoulders, correcting their every move? Or are you marking the field and letting them play? Trust is a scary thing to give away, but it is the only way to get greatness in return. And finally, ask yourself the goose question: when was the last time you honked? When was the last time you told a colleague, "Hey, I saw how you handled that difficult client, and it was amazing"? When was the last time you celebrated a small win? Silence is not golden in leadership. Silence is deadly. Make some noise. Asterisk Gung Ho. Asterisk is a reminder that people are not machines. You cannot program them. You cannot just fuel them with money and expect loyalty. People are emotional, spiritual beings. We need meaning. We need autonomy. And we need appreciation. It's easy to be cynical about business fables. It's easy to roll your eyes at squirrels and beavers. But strip away the metaphors, and you have the fundamental truths of human psychology. We want to matter. We want to be trusted. We want to be valued. Peggy Sinclair saved Walton Works No. 2 not by firing everyone and hiring better workers, and not by buying millions of dollars of new robots. She saved it by unlocking the potential that was already there, dormant, waiting for someone to care enough to turn the key. As you go about your week, look for the squirrels, the beavers, and the geese in your life. Better yet, become one. Find your worthwhile work. Take control of your goals. And for heaven's sake, cheer for the people around you. The world has enough critics. Be a cheerleader. Thank you for listening. Now, go out there and get gung ho.